So the question that I have is why you chose real estate over maybe other avenues like stocks.
I think like stocks is something that you can invest. Whereas in real estate, I find that real estate is very, very easy to understand.
Why did you choose the other two provinces over the Vancouver market?
The reason why I went to other provinces, even though I live in Vancouver, I find that the yields in the Lower Mainland has been quite stagnant and low. But the only reason why people still buy Vancouver is...
How have you seen this landscape changing in the past 15 years that you've been in the industry? Because I feel like they just add new rules and guidelines like pretty much every single week.
Well, it's hard to predict the future. If you're in real estate, you are in the long-term game anyway, so you're not going to think about it on an annual basis. Yeah, well, my music, I started playing when I was like around 5 years old.
Hi guys, today we have Wendy Cheung, a Web Summit connection and an investor. How are you, Wendy?
Very good, Sadra. How are you doing?
I am doing super well. So we met about 2 weeks ago and we sort of connected very well. And now there's a lot of projects that you indulge in. There's a busy life that you sort of have. And if you can touch on like how did you start from the beginnings to where you're at, and with the composing, with real estate, these could be different sections, but just sort of like a rundown about it.
My music or my real estate?
We'll go with let's go with music first, and then we'll go to all the other avenues.
Sounds good. Yeah, well, my music, I started playing when I was like around 5 years old. And I remember when I was playing on a toy piano. My mom was singing, humming in the kitchen. So she was singing a song that's like a part of a opening of a soap opera. And without any musical training on the piano, I played the tune out. And then she came out and she's like, wow, my daughter's somewhat talented. And then at that moment, she thought maybe lessons would be a good choice. But more so because my parents were immigrants, so they really didn't have a lot of the budget to afford lessons. It wasn't something that they think it would be something important at the moment because they were still trying to put food on the table. Then I had to go through a major surgery around 6-7 years old, and I was in the hospital with a cast on one arm. And then after that, my mom said, well, she needs to strengthen her fingers and let's try to put her lessons, even though it was kind of tough. But we're just going to give her that to strengthen the fingers, not for music lessons.
And from there, sort of you picked up more and more instruments, or how did that go per se?
Yeah, and then we started. I had lessons with a friend of my mom, my mom's friend's daughter, and so she taught me. Her name's Angela and Juan, and she taught me the first few years of piano lessons, and I gained some good foundation. And then later on, Eliza Ip, she took on and really instilled the love of music from an early age. I remember back in the day, I didn't have to take exams or I didn't have to do recitals. I literally just kind of practiced on my own. And what was very interesting is that, how some parents, they really want their kid to excel in a certain degree or however many levels with the RCM and all that. I didn't have the pressure of playing. I was just told to love the instrument. If you love the instrument, you'll just play it all day long. And I fell in love with the piano, and the piano is my best friend. I spent so many hours, like probably 8 to 10 hours a day playing. And it became my world. It was until my teenage years when I wrote my first piece. And one day I was walking to the band room. I also played the oboe and the clarinet and the sax. So I was part of a band, and I remember walking to the band room, and I heard one of my piece being performed on the piano. And that was the most magical moment of my life. I would say that was the epiphany right there. I remember walking into the band room like closer and closer. My music's being heard like louder, and almost as if, and I'm not even joking, like there's a spotlight from heaven, like just shone right over me, and like this voice saying, "This is your career path. This is what you're meant to do on this earth. You have to follow that passion. This is you, and do it." That was what I got out of that experience. And then from there on, I was like 16 years old, and I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to really pursue it like wholeheartedly.
Wow, that's magical. So you wrote your first piece, and how did that individual like get a hold of it, and how did that?
I know, and I was wondering that myself. I was like, how would anyone know? She was part of my choir, and I remember playing that song, and then she had access to it, and then she liked it enough to play it. And it was just at that very moment when I caught it, and I was like, wow, like this song is great. I know I wrote it, right? It's a little bit egotistic, but I mean, I just felt so connected, and it just spoke really loudly to me. And the feeling of having my music perform is profound. The amount of happiness that I get, I would say whatever your happiest moment times that by 1,000, that's how I feel when music is performed that I wrote and shared.
Wow, that's amazing. So fast forward, you have like, how many instruments do you actually play, and how can some, like in one piece, really go layer by layer, different instruments? Like you have to have an extraordinary ability of understanding of sounds and voices and frequencies that blend together and make a full orchestra per se. So how does that process really happen and go?
Well, I do have a music degree at UBC, with composition as my major, and I learned technique on how to orchestrate a variety of music instruments. I do play, like I said, oboe, clarinet, flute, saxophone, piano, and I have knowledge in the other instruments as well, their ranges, and how to blend the instruments together to make the sound that I want. So it's more like technical, and also because I am ARCT and I've done piano throughout my entire life. So I think it's the combination of passion, orchestration techniques, and be able to have a good ear, and also the heart of what I want, the emotion I want to elicit in the music, to bring in the colors that I want. And I also wanted to be part of a film score where I could look at a scene and then fit in the music that I want and make that scene a lot more in depth and bring out the life of what the script should be. And I also went to the Vancouver Film School program myself back in the day, and I did score to some of that.
Wow. Is it true that piano is the mother of all instruments? Would you agree with that?
I think so. I think that's a good point. I mean, it is my primary instrument, and I think that like when you learn piano, you have a lot of theory that comes with understanding the instrument, and being that it's a percussion instrument in a way. And then, but you can also score the string quartets in it, knowing the harmonies that a chord has, and then blending in these theoretic techniques to do voicings and be able to like put in layers. I would say that a lot of times when you're orchestrating, you do need some background of how to make sense of chords and what notes to use to make to avoid and to like add into the chord progression, being able to make it so that it is interesting enough, but also is harmonizes well. And then using the dissonant chords and the consonant chords to create that contrast. It's something I love to do. So I think I see it as a way of expression of what I see. So how I think in my mind is very much sound based. So if I were to, like a painter would use a blank canvas and then use art as a way to express themselves. But for me, I need to use music because I don't see information. I don't process information as visual. I do it through sound, and that's how my brain works.
Wow, that is extraordinary. Are your parents, have they played a musical instrument as well, or where did that originate from, really?
My mom sings quite well. I think just natural talent. My mom's an artist. She taught me how to paint, like at a very young age. She does oil paint and portraits. Well, I grew up in a pretty artistic family. She taught students, and I saw a lot of students come through her classes, and I was one of them. And I think that because they are more teachers and philanthropists, they do value culture. We have a lot of art pieces that's displayed in the house. My mom made the Mona Lisa. She recreated that picture, and it's on our living room wall. And I grew up like knowing like a lot of painting that she kind of display throughout. And I remember one time she's part of the Federation of Artists Association, where she donates her pieces for auction. And one day I came back home and I didn't see the Mona Lisa anymore. And I'm like, where did it go? And she's like, well, I just donated it to this charity event. And then I'm like, no, Mom, you can't do that. I watched it, like I'll be on the wall ever since I was a kid. You can't just remove my childhood this way. So I ran to the event and I bid on it, and I bought it back from the charity.
No way.
And it's so funny because in the morning it was there, and then in the evening it's back on the wall, the same place where I had it. That was so funny. I was like the highest bidder.
Wow.
But yeah, so in terms of like artistic, I think my mom had a lot, and I kind of passed on a little bit to me. Yeah.
So fast forward, in November, you have a concert coming up in Vancouver, and there is a lot of moving pieces that's going on. Can you talk about maybe the back end stories of what really drove you to do such thing, and any stories that you have in the really coming this event together?
Yeah, November 29th this year, I have a concert at the Orpheum downtown Vancouver. And this is a big concert that I'm putting on with the VMO, the Vancouver Metropolitan Orchestra. They're a nonprofit, very renowned group here with Maestro Kenneth Shea. He's world-renowned travel and did a lot of concerts with other orchestra as well. And this is a collaboration with the VMO alongside with the Heads Up Guys. Heads Up Guys is a foundation geared to help promote mental wellness among men. They are a very established charity where their essence and mantra is to bring awareness that men also can express themselves, and if they were going through some depression, they could reach out. There is a hotline as well as some resources that they can learn to cope with and get counseling and techniques that they can learn how to help with the mental illness aspect. And I'm a big believer that mental wellness is extremely important to our everything else, because I think it stems from the mind, whatever we do daily, right? Physical health, emotional health, and it all ties together with mental health. And this is 100% a charity event. We want to sell out, and we really want to promote the aspect of mental wellness to the community and bring everyone together.
Hey, real quick, if you're still here, this is clearly resonating with you, so I'm asking for a quick favor. Right now, over 99% of people watching aren't subscribed. It takes 2 seconds by hitting subscribe and like, tells the platform that this is worth spreading. And by doing so, that helps us bring better guests and continue delivering high quality content. Also, if you know just one person that would get value from this, send this to them right now. That's how this show grows. It's person to person, no ads and no algorithms. So, like, subscribe, and share this to someone that you care about. It means the world to me, and it truly makes all the difference. All right, let's get back to the good stuff. So, that sort of is the music side, but you have many different sides to your personality, which one is sort of maybe investing and bringing a group of investors together to buy up units and properties per se for rental purposes. Can you talk about how that journey started and where is it now?
I started to invest when I was 21, and since then, I did build a portfolio for myself. I think that investing in ourselves and looking after our finances is very important, which I think a lot of Canadians don't know how to. Because the information isn't really available, or we're not taught in school, in high school and university. And so therefore it's like lacking. Like financial literacy is a big component in our well-being. And therefore, something that I think it's good to remind ourselves that that's a component to learn more about. But in terms of myself, I really believe like investing in our knowledge, and then secondly is to invest in avenues. So for myself, I did build real estate by investing in it during a market that is it's because it's been about 15 years already, and I've seen it grow quite well in the Vancouver area. I also invest in other provinces as well. So I have BC, Alberta, and New Brunswick. Our family do some development as well as some management for our own assets. So through that business, I did learn quite a bit in real estate. Yeah.
So the question that I have is why you chose real estate over maybe other avenues like stocks? Because these two, I don't know, in the world they like collide. Like, which one should you go to, real estate or stocks? And like, the traditional investing in different companies. Why real estate? And maybe the answer is your family was already sort of a bit established in the space, but can you maybe give a contrast between the two?
I think like stocks is something that you can invest in where you have really no control over, but you can almost as if it's like going to the casino where you're buying something that would go up or down, right? You can certainly study stocks and learn about the business and the companies, but really you have no influence to the share price on a daily level. And you can place your bets and see if you made a good choice. Whereas in real estate, it is a concrete product where you can touch it, you can go there, you can rent it, you can sell it, even though you can sell stocks, but in real estate, at least you know that you can have rental income. It's much more solid. I think both are very good investments, but also based on what your risk tolerance is. It could be a combination of the two. But personally, I have not yet find stocks being a type of investment where I can sleep well at night, I suppose, right? Whereas I find that real estate is very, very easy to understand. You can do a lot with it where like you can refinance it, you can leverage it, you can also reposition your product. You have quite more easy access to your investment, and that's why I kind of side with real estate a little bit more. But I'm sure that there's investors out there that like stocks over real estate because it comes with a host of other things as well.
Mm-hmm. This is you mentioned very good points here, and another question that I have is why did you choose the other two provinces over the Vancouver market? I know there's maybe the Vancouver market's kind of maybe say there's a bubble or is going very high, it's very expensive, or what do you look for exactly when investing in real estate? If you can like walk us through your thought process.
Sure, absolutely. That's a great question, actually. The reason why I went into other provinces, even though I live in Vancouver, I think that Alberta and New Brunswick have a higher yield. So one thing about investing is just like, what's your ROI, right? Return on investment, right? And I find that the yields in the Lower Mainland has been quite stagnant and low. So low that sometimes you start wondering, are you making any returns at all? So I remember that if you buy multifamily in the Lower Mainland, your cap rate is maybe 2%, 2.5%. And that's probably lower than your interest rate, if you're leveraged, and it's a negative return. Right, but people don't really think about that. Even if you're buying any investments, like talking about real estate in Vancouver, cash flow is not even in consideration. You would buy a condo, a townhouse, or a house, even a house with a suite. When you have extra rental income, it doesn't debt service. It doesn't give you the extra cash flow that you think you would need to make a sound investment. It's oftentimes negative because there's strata fees, there's property taxes, there's insurance, there's repairs and maintenance. There's so many expenses that do come up. And then if the tenants don't keep your place in a good spot, then you have to renovate. There's a lot of costs that go with real estate. And being that is in the Lower Mainland with the cap rate being so low, you're really almost out of pocket by investing. But the only reason why people still buy in Vancouver is, number one, they live here because they want a house for themselves, or they know or think that it will appreciate. So over time, let's say in a 10-year span, generally real estate go up 8%. This is sort of if you look back in the last 30 years, average returns is around 8% is what we think. Like historically, that's what the number is. But going forward, can real estate go up 8% every year? And it hasn't been for the last several years, right? We have been on a stalemate right now, and the products are not moving as much as should. Condo market is really down, probably down 25%. And there isn't a lot of growth. And because there is political changes, the tariffs, there's interest rates still high, and cap rates haven't really moved too much from it, except sometimes maybe a motivated seller. So therefore, it doesn't make any sense, in my view, for now, unless it's were to appreciate. But in terms of the other provinces, I think Alberta and New Brunswick, you get a cap rate around, say, depending on what the product is, and it depends on like other metrics, like is the area, you can get a 6 to 7% yield. So then you're still cash flowing. You're still making a good return, even based on today's interest rates, right? They have gone up right now. I think a residential rate would be around 4%. Commercial interest rates about 5%. So you're still having a bit of a hedge or a spread between what it would be if you were buying a good product, so you get better yield, and you also get better bang for your buck as well. So the property prices are lower as well, so your entry point is more affordable. And there's a lot of metrics saying that there's a lot of infrastructure changes in Alberta. There's like the Ring Road. There's projects going in. Alberta is booming. There's a lot of net immigration. I think there's 100,000 people just last year that have added to the province. So where they go, they need to rent. So you would have a higher pool of tenants. Yeah. And also in Alberta, there is no rental control, whereas BC does. So if you want to be a landlord, you want to make sure that you have control over what you want to dictate your rents to be. So in Alberta, there's no cap. So meaning you go where the market should be. And generally the rents are higher because of the fact that you can dictate that. And in BC, if you have a tenant that's in place, I think the average, it will be about 3% increase per year that we're allowed. And you have a lot of red tape on tenancy as well. So whereas, Alberta doesn't have that. In New Brunswick, it's sort of when I bought in New Brunswick, they didn't have any rental control, but now they're kind of talking about it. And they're implementing a few things, yeah.
I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, but the first thing I want to ask is the guidelines that you said, the rental controls and the red tapes. How have you seen this landscape changing in the past 15 years that you've been in the industry? Because I feel like they just add new rules and guidelines like pretty much every single week. So how do you see that even evolving in the next 5 years?
Well, it's hard to predict the future, right? As anyone would say, I think that more rent control probably would be what the Canadian government wants. They want more protection for the tenants. And it did got a bit out of hand the last 24 months where for example, in Alberta, they went up 20% of rents because of the fact that there's no rental control. So, and there's quite an increase in the product as well. So in terms of houses and the residential world, there is an increase of about 20% in the real estate market. It's quite active right now as we speak, even though BC is not experiencing that, but in Alberta it's quite of a boom, which is unlikely because it was more of a surprise, shall I say, because prior to the last 24 months, I would say the last 10 years prior has been very stale. So there are cyclical cycles that Alberta goes through. And right now we're kind of at a boom, but we won't really know how long it'll last for. Maybe it'll come down and it'll taper down. But it's sort of, I think right now we're seeing uncertainties in the marketplace. So it's hard to identify what the next 5 years is going to be. But I would assume that it be more, well, I think Alberta will calm down a little bit more, and BC might go through a bit more challenges, and then maybe in 2-3 years, then it'll start to pick up again. But these are just long-term horizons. If you're in real estate, you are in the long-term game anyway, so you're not going to think about it on an annual basis, more so like more of every 10 years what your investment would do. So that's what my suggestion is. Like if you're looking at real estate, it's long-term.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting how you haven't actually tapped into the U.S. market, and I want to ask you, would that make sense to go to U.S.? What are the challenges? Like there has to be a reason that maybe you haven't tapped into that.
Yeah, I did own some real estate in Arizona a few years back. I found that the U.S. is an interesting market where it really depends on the state, as well as some of the laws behind that state. And I find it's also quite volatile. Yeah, there are times where we had gone through like the subprime back in 2008, where real estate had dropped, 70%, let's say. And if you were picking it up 2009, 10, you would been like walking on water, right? But now it's a bit on the high side, and even though there's still a lot of uncertainties, people are cautious, but you're not picking up really good deals. So as an investor, you also want to look at timing into where you're investing into, the political climate behind it. How are you going to manage the real estate? Are you able, or is it feasible to manage afar? How comfortable you are with this asset, right? And it's not all one size fit all type of investment. You really have to think about where you're at and what's your comfort level and what your ability is.
Mm-hmm. Would you say right now at this moment, would buying a house make more sense? Buying a townhouse? Buying maybe an apartment? Between these three buckets of categories, which one's your favorite, and which one would you maybe say is fit for a certain person or family?
I think that if you were able to afford a house, would be a better product than a townhouse or a condo at any given day. this is my personal opinion. But I actually wouldn't buy either of those, like none of those three. But if it had to be those three, I would say a house with a suite. Like if you can actually put in two suites, one or two suites in the basement, and then you have more rental income. Or if there's a coach house, there's carriage homes now that you can also rent out. That's legal as well. And that means that there's more tenants that you can provide housing for, allows more income as well. That's what I would choose because, of course, there's land. Land appreciates over time. You can then rent it to one family, or you can split up how the arrangements are and rent it to multiple tenants. Historically, houses do go up, appreciate faster than condos. But as an investor, and I was encouraged that you have to look at the market and the timing, because if condo markets is low and it's going through a depression, then you would want to pick that up. But at the same time, with condos, it's not really a great product in my mind, is because there's condo fees, like strata fees, there is levies, and you own a unit entitlement, you don't own the land. I don't see that there is a good upside for it. So in principle, I wouldn't buy condos. I own condos, so like when I bought it, like way back in the time. But being having the last 2 decades to look at my portfolio, I would certainly think that my houses outperform my condos. Mm-hmm. But if that's a product that a young person can get into because of the price point, I would still encourage to get into a condo and then be able to switch up to a house at some point down the road.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned that you wouldn't actually get into any of them.
Yeah.
I just want to linger on why not?
Well, because I think that as an investor, and if one wants to buy an investment property, then you are an investor, then I think that I would prefer commercial. If I had a choice, if I could just relive my last 15 years, I think that's what the podcast is for, right? So how can you do better and having the hindsight? So I would say that if I were to redo my portfolio one more time, I would definitely go into commercial right from the get-go, instead of having to go through residential, build up a portfolio, then look into commercial. But sometimes, you can't really get into something that you're not comfortable until you get really used to what you know in this space. So residential seems like an easy entry point. But if I were to, let's say, look at everything as as equal, and if I could redo the last 15 years, because real estate takes time for the portfolio to grow, I would say that my returns will be way better by owning commercial real estate. Yeah, that's what I would think.
So it's interesting you mentioned, why is that? Because there has to be certain criteria that makes that asset maybe more attractive to others in the future, and that's how really the prices work. So why do you think that is?
Well, I think that as a commercial investor, and which is I solely buy commercial now, is because the scale that I buy at, and also the product. So commercial, we have different types of asset classes, and each of them bring in some advantages and some disadvantages as well. But all of those disadvantages that I would think of still outweighs buying a single family home or a condo or a townhouse.
Can we linger on this more, or if you're comfortable, like talking about what are these different classes of commercial real estate, and what are the advantages and disadvantages, and what you exactly look for when maybe purchasing one?
Yeah. So I currently own a multifamily, industrial, mobile home parks, land, retail, and small offices. And I find that each of these asset classes have advantages and disadvantages, so we can talk about individually. So for most of my assets, I would say that it'd be in the multifamily space. And the scale that I generally buy, it's around 150 to 300 units. And I do own some smaller buildings too, but I find that they're not as efficient. So I find that when I buy commercial, I do want it to be in a certain scale so that the management aspect can be much more simplified, or I could have third-party management. So I think that's one of the criteria that I look into, is how can I manage this? So with any business, any investment, you have to be able to answer, how are you going to manage it? The success of any investment is who and how to manage. Okay, just remember that. That's a very important point. No successful business or investment could happen without good managers. Okay, it's just simple as that. So when I buy a product, when I buy property, I always think, well, how am I going to manage it? Am I going to manage it, or is it going to be a property management company that could look after it? And are they capable of doing that? And with a small building, and that's why I didn't like the house, is because I'm thinking you would need multiple units to make sense of. First, for your time and the cost of management. Right? Are you able to afford a full-time caretaker at the property? Or are you going to go there and self-manage? Sometimes people use their family members to help them manage, but generally that's not able to withstand long-term period of time. And I think that out of all the courses of having a sizable portfolio, the larger assets that are 100 doors and more allow a more streamlined management system. And most of the times the buildings, I do have offices on site, because tenants do seem to have they have needs, and therefore it's nice to have their issues resolved quickly. So we have our own offices right at the complex, so they could have a faster response if they were looking for maintenance or any questions on their leases, etc. So that's why large scale. So multifamily is a really good asset. I would say that it's a pretty stable asset. You're going to get a good cash flow return. But it comes with a host of management, whereas, there's a lot of moving parts and maintenance. So that's one aspect. I would highly recommend multifamily. The industrial is a lot more turnkey. Generally, is you're renting to tenants that are either using as a workshop, storage, and I think that's pretty easy on a management side. And I like bigger bays and bigger footprints. And then there's the mobile home parks are really, really great. I would say that probably one of my best investment is the mobile home parks, because we don't own any of the houses. It's just the land. And every month the tenants pay for the pad rental. And that's it. It's really nothing much going on than keeping it graded and maybe some snow removal and some basic things to do to service the land. And then retail, you're dealing with professional tenants where they use it. Like for myself, I have some national brands, and they are generally head office would be the one looking after the rents, and so it's more very turnkey.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I would say parking as well. Like if you have a parking, there's not much to it as well. As you said, like some snow removal, and that's about it, really.
Yeah, I agree. It's a great type of investment. Parking. Yeah, great idea. That's my next thing. I'm going to buy a parking lot.
So we sort of touched on this aspect as well, but is there any fun stories or any big challenges that has been in your career, and you can share with us a story that maybe it was like, wow, that was crazy or something like that?
In real estate or in music?
Real estate, music, both of them really, because there's two
Yeah.
aspects.
It's really interesting. I'll share my music journey a little bit. I remember going to a concert, and there was this old lady who was performing that night. It was just it's a little tiny concert with 100 people, and my friend just told me like, oh, go there and let's check out this performer. And so I was like, oh, okay. And I was really busy with real estate. I was top of my game at that time. I was just 24/7 going at it. So I was like, oh, this is so, I'm not sure if I wanted to do this. This is so like waste my time, right? But I went anyway just to support my friend. And I sat in the front row middle. And I remember this old lady on the stage, and she was wearing a black sweater. She was about like probably 80 years old. And she was about to play. And I was like, okay, who is this, right? And then this lady, she says, she was telling the audience, she always wanted to perform the piano in front of others, but she never did it. She had never had the courage to perform. And she wanted to let the audience know not to wait till her age to do something you love. And she says, please, if you have a dream, go for it. Go seize the moment. And then when she said that, I had, I struck a chord with me, and like the tears were rolling on my eyes, like, and my mascara is all smudged up, and I was crying. I was crying like right there, like sitting. And I was so embarrassed because I didn't want to like ruin the concert, or I didn't want it to disturb my neighbors. So I ran out of the concert, and then I went to my car, rolled up the window, and I was crying my lungs out. And that was the turning point where I knew that no matter how much success one has, like I was really thinking that I was so well into real estate, and I was so accomplished, but I didn't have what was more important to me on a spiritual level that the music had in my life, that impact, that little girl who always wanted to have music as part of the career, like I was telling you, the epiphany, and I wasn't doing that. I left it behind, and that's the day I decided to go to Hong Kong and start a career in writing. And from there, that moment on, from that time, I took a 6-day trip to Hong Kong. And I said, during this trip, I'm going to give myself a chance to kick the can and see what I could do with my music. Yeah. And then, so I bought a ticket. I was on the plane. And then, you know how you're on the plane and you have these magazines that you pull out. So I was just casually reading it. I came to a page where there was a composer who was having a concert at the like GM equivalent stadium in Hong Kong. And the concert was that night, the night that I land. And I was wondering, could I make it? I think I land around 7. Can I really get from the airport to the stadium? So I just whip right there. And then it's sold out. Then I'm like, well, how am I going to watch it, right? There was one person trying to sell a ticket outside the door. And I'm like, wow, really? Seriously? Is this even ticket valid? Is it legit? And I made sure that I paid the person after I got in, just to make sure it's, the right ticket. And then they didn't allow me to bring my luggage in. So I left my luggage outside the concert hall. And then I watched my favorite composer, and actually that composer is called Joseph Koo. He's actually passed away already. He's one of my instructor way back when I was in my early 20s. He's a prolific composer. I would say he's equivalent to like David Foster. He wrote probably 2,000 songs. Many of them are hit songs. And the concert is a collaboration of all the pop stars who sang his songs and became very famous and really being able to become a big star because of his music. And they came together on the same stage performing like a collage of all of his works. And that was a concert where he was going to pivot to like a retirement and do his other hobbies and art and so forth. So that was a big performance, and I was able to capture that day. So that was like a really blessing in disguise. It happened so like aligned, and it was just amazed. And then I remember that 6 days, I said to myself, well, I'm going to try a career in Hong Kong. I have no connections. I barely read Chinese. I was like, well, how am I ever going to even make it in this space? So the first 5 days, I just went and shop and ate and just become a tourist. And I don't know where to find a connection. But then I remember on the fifth night, I started to pray. And I said, God, like, if you want me to do this and you want me to have a career in songwriting, then you better do something miraculous, because I'm flying out tomorrow. So if you're going to do something, do it quick. And I literally kind of gave it to the universe to figure it out, which I couldn't at the time. And on the 6th day, the room that I was staying in, the phone rang. And it rang, and then it rang, and it rang. And it rang for a long time, and I thought, wow, who would be looking for me? Because I don't know anybody here. So I thought it was probably the concierge, but I picked it up, and it was a friend from Vancouver looking for me. And she says, are you available right now? And I was like, I have a few hours before I fly off. And she's like, well, if you are, then can you have dim sum with my family member? And here's an address. Go if you can. And I wrote it down, and I took a taxi over. And then I met a producer there, which is her family member. And she helped me produce my music and pedal it to, from there on, I was able to connect to a lot of celebrities there. But that was the first meeting point, was at that lunch. And then after that, I worked with her for 3 years straight. And I was able to get my music out to some of the singers, and my songs did hit the Billboard. About 5 of them did, and then one of them was nominated Song of the Year. So I was able to go to the red carpet event, and I was backstage with some of the biggest stars there, and also went to the after party. I was able to have a really good experience in the writing space.
Wow, that is crazy.
Yeah.
So were you religious, or after that you believed in God, or how did that pray come from?
It's just interesting, because I used to go to church, and then the praying, I think it's more of a spiritual conversation that I have with the universe. I think that praying does work, and sometimes things happen for a reason, and if the reason is to serve me, and there are a lot of things that we don't know that's working for us, but we can't see it, and it's about dealing with the unknown, right? I think that sometimes we think we know a lot, but actually we know so little. It's the best things happen when we don't know that's happening around us. And this is just my belief, right? And I would say that, yeah, like for example, like meeting you, it's a great gift as well. Thanks,
Thank
Sandra.
you very much.
Yeah, I really think life has so many surprises, and it could be on a daily level. As if you notice it, it could be things you never anticipated to be so great. It just happens, just fall into your lap. A lot of times, I do experience that, and things don't work out, but they don't work out for a reason, and it's probably a better thing to happen than for it not to. So I kind of probably avoided something terrible, maybe. That's how I think.
Yeah, no, it's true. There's this story that there's this farmers out in the mountains, and they have like a bunch of horses, and the kid goes and breaks his leg, and the villagers are like, wow, that's such a bad event. The wise guy or the father is like, we shall see. And the military comes, and there's a war, and they take all the kids away to serve, but that kid that broke his leg, he can't go. The villagers are like, oh, that's so great. He's like, we shall see. And this goes on and on, because an event just occurs. Now you can interpret it as positive or negative, and that's just comes from your own beliefs in your own brain.
That's true. So you never know if it's positive or negative until after the fact. But I find that that's the magic of life, though. Like you twist and turn, and you'll get something that you never expected at those times where you thought, "Oh, I never signed up for this, but I got something else different," and that's where the magic is.
100%. So it's interesting too how you went to Hong Kong for just 6 days.
Yes.
Didn't know anyone. Is it that like maybe Hong Kong is the hub for music and composers, or why did you choose there per se?
That's a great question. Thanks for asking. I actually grew up like watching TV, and the pop stars that I usually adore when I was a kid are those Hong Kong stars. Like they are the ones that I listen to their tunes. I buy their music. I'm like a big fan. I actually got inspired by their songs, and I played a lot of piano at the time. And I wrote these tunes on my own and improvised them. And I used to think like these songs I can whip out in minutes, and they're just as good as the radio songs. Like I had a lot of confidence in myself through listening to their songs and writing similar pop songs. So I always vowed that one day I'll go to Hong Kong and become a professional songwriter. That was really the dream. And I didn't go for it until 2013, and I didn't really believe that I could. That was something it was more of a self inflicted kind of mindset where I didn't think I could break through. So I thought, oh, well, why would my music be as good as theirs, or wow, how can I ever break in, or like there's so many unknowns until I just thought if you don't try, you'll never know. If you try, you'll be better at it, and then you can try again and again until you get it, and eventually you make it. And generally, the successful people are the ones that they don't give up. They just never do, and you can't beat the person if they don't give up. It's eventually one day it will be the day that it happens. So I think that's what led it to such a long time before I actually pursue it. But in terms of why Hong Kong is just where I saw the celebrities that I wanted to write for, and it was such a nostalgic experience when I met them as an older person, and they are also in a different space. But then I remember my a big fan of Alan Tam. Like he's like a big, he's like a Michael Jackson in Hong Kong, right? And then I went to his concert, I went to backstage, like we're friends, and he gave me critique of my songs. Like I gave him my demo, and I'm like, hey, can you tell me how is it, right? Humbly. And he's like, oh, yeah, I like this, I can do this. And I find like, wow, I can't believe it. Like I was like a little kid, like watching him on TV winning all these awards. And now I'm actually like right beside him. And like even gave me some money. Like he gave me some red envelope. In Chinese, we always give like red envelopes. They gave me some during Chinese New Year, and we're friends. Like I can't believe, right? And so these are the things that were kind of go full circle, where I kind of checked off one of my boxes, like my goals, I suppose. But I didn't know that I could do it. Sometimes these are things that kind of working. So in terms of spiritual level, I find that over the years, that if something speaks to you, I think you should pursue it, because there is a reason why it's speaking to you. It's not something that you just thought of, that, woke up one day and you're like, oh, this is kind of what I think is. I don't think that at all. I think that it's actually something higher than you, some of the universe, or like a spiritual element to it, where you are planted with these thoughts. So my philosophy is that if you really want to do something, that's because you should. And you should try it, at least. And then you can decide tomorrow if you still want to do it, though. Like, it's not fixated as to that's the it thing. But if you repeatedly want to do something and it's irking at you, and it's really what you really desire, and it's kind of brewing in your heart, and that you really like think that's important, and it's part of who you are and what you want, like, I really encourage you just go and explore that and do it for your own sake.
100%. Yeah, this is valuable, because many people feel like potentially stuck in their routines, their 9 to 5. They stop growing, they're stagnant. And I think this is good advice for anyone watching, that really pursue what you want, because life at the end of the day is shorter than you might think, and it just passes by. And if you don't do what you enjoy, then it's just not worth it, really.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it is quite short. I mean, you're young, so there's a lot of room there, but certainly you just never know. And because and the uncertainty, just might as well just do what you want now. Seize the moment, carpe diem. Right? You really want to enjoy every moment. And sometimes, like, even you, let's say, delay something. Like say, oh, I want to do it, but I'll just delay the gratification. But at sometimes when you are like a bit older and you're at a different phase, you might not want it anymore. It's not even the same. I'll give you an example, if I may.
Yeah,
I remember when I was a child, I was like maybe 5 or 6, 7 years old. I got these really pretty dresses. Okay, I had these, like, my parents would buy me these, like the Cinderella dresses, right? And I would hang in my closet, and they're so nice that I didn't want to get them dirty, and I didn't want to wear it. I want to wait till my birthday or Christmas or something, some day special to wear it, right? So I would just look at it. But then I didn't know, because I was young, right? That eventually I won't fit it, right? And when in my teenage years, I don't fit it anymore. So those years went by with me looking at my dresses and not wearing them. And now I look back, I'm like, why didn't I wear it and enjoy it when I had the chance? And now it's like, it's not the same, right? Because it is more of a metaphor. Of course, you can buy new dresses and wear them as well, right? But it's not the point, right? The message is that at those time period, I can't get it back, right? I can't go back and say, hey, I'm going to wear it now. It's because it's too late. It's kind of gone, right? But knowing now, it's like, if you have something that you want, do it now. Don't wait. Don't think it's a special moment. It's a special moment every day of your life, because you're live.
Wow, that's amazing. That was actually a very good example. We're getting super deep here. A question that I have on the music side. So you sort of compose these pieces. And then how does it work? Like, do you maybe have a band play it for you, so you go back and reiterate? Or can you walk us through the process of when you are like, okay, I want to compose this piece, to it actually being performed, or maybe the last stage of it?
Are you talking about pop song or what kind of music?
Right. Yeah, there's different.
Yeah.
Like maybe the orchestra that you have in November. Let's maybe focus on that.
In terms of the process of writing, is mostly because I'm a pianist, so I would write the music on the piano first. It's my easiest instrument to express the melody, and I can write it write it down quicker, and then also the chords come naturally. So I would write the piano part, and then after the piano part, I would then separate the well, first of all, I would let's rewind a little bit. In terms of the concert this year, that the pieces were written for a musical where a few years back in 2018, I did another concert called Seasons, and Seasons is about the four seasons of Vivaldi, but I want to write a new version of it. So for that, I written it on the piano, and then I orchestrated it to fit the seasons, because it was a full-blown, a kind of a Broadway style musical with dancers and choir and singers and the orchestra, and there's a lot of theatrical effects. But fast forward to this year, I have now a new production called Senses, which I infuse the five senses into this concert. So we have the obvious, the auditorial, the visual. We have a LED screen with of the storytelling that's on the screen to it's in sync with the music, and we have the tactile, which is every of the audience will get a journal where they can write their feelings and gratitude or draw what they want to express. So for them to, jot down their thoughts. I also incorporated taste. So we have catering and some bites to kind of get your mouth wet prior to the show. And we're going to use also like a lot of the therapeutic elements, because we have consulted with a PhD focus on music therapy. So there are some scientific based techniques that we are incorporating as a music therapy program, but expressed artistically through the concert. So one of the aspects of the production is that we want people to gain mental wellness, for sure. Like it's a journey where they have self-discovery. They would come in and go for the ride, but mainly is to be able to put down all the stresses that one would have normally in the world. So let's say if people are going through different negative aspects, that it could be stresses at work, or it could be a divorce, or family issues, or relationships, or financial, whatever the stressors that one has. We want everyone to leave that behind, like as if they were coming to a meditation program. They'll come into a positive platform where they, from the time of inception, maybe coming to the lobby, all the way to the end of the concert, to come out to be completely surrounded by positiveness. We have a huge dream board as people come into the lobby, where they can write down all they want in their life. Then through that, you'll see that the humankind is very similar. Most people want very similar things, the same things as, and you also just get to see that you're not really alone. Like, we're a part of a bigger community, where your dreams of being a dancer is similar to my dream being a writer, where someone maybe in tech or someone would be in business. We all have dreams, and we all want to strive to be better, and we want to be surrounded by people that could see us, that we're also similar, and that give us the reminder that we're all together in this world, and see reflections of other people's eyes to ours. So that there's a lot of human element to the show, and I don't want to give all the surprises away, but certainly the whole production is with music therapy, with music expression, artistic element, and a really great way to network as well, because we do have a VIP section where business professional can meet one another and also build some good connections and relationships going forward. I see that it's a good production. In terms of the music, sorry, it kind of detour from there, but in terms of the music, I translate the piano to the storyline and orchestrate it to the storyline that which I want the audience to feel. So we have a storyboard where the like where almost like a movie, like we're shooting a movie in essence, but using the music and the visuals together. So I think that's kind of the sort of the crux of it. But the orchestration in terms of where the notes go and what kind of colors is mostly technical. I mean, as an orchestrator, you'll know the range of each instrument and what blends more appropriately, right? Whether you want more of the woodwinds, more of the strings. Is it going to be a quiet section, or is something more robust? Is it majestic? Is it like more solitude? And I think that through the sound that I want, then I'll be able to cultivate what instruments to use and what ranges to use it for, and what to double, what to incorporate. And I also think that over time, I'm probably would bring in also more unique instruments into the orchestration as well. And also I think because of a pop background, I like things that are very palatable, because I think in classical music there are music where some people, they say they need to be much more educated to appreciate the music. Like it's very complex. Whereas I find that film scoring, we use a lot of classical technique in film score. And whereas like I think film score is a really good platform where most people can appreciate, because they hear it all the time when they're watching movies. And I like to use that style so that it's really easy to elicit certain emotions and then be able to sync it to the visuals. And the whole purpose of this concert is to be able to transform our mindset from perhaps maybe a negative to a positive, to reinforce what's possible. It is an uplifting movement, and the whole mental wellness aspect to it is a new experimentation of how to use music therapy into, and music therapy has been around for a very long time. It is a avenue to mental wellness. Is how do we use it so that is artistically and also readily available to people, and they don't have to be having to go through a therapy to get therapeutic effects. It's almost like if we went to get a massage, you will feel better afterwards, right? It's almost like going there and get a mental massage, and then we feel better afterwards. And then when we feel better, we do better, and that because everything comes from thoughts and emotions. Every action that we have, and whether directly or indirectly, is caused by how we feel, and how we feel is our emotions, and how we can transform that in 90 minutes. That's where the art comes from. And yeah, I wish that everyone can come and support.
That's amazing what you're doing. It seems that you have certain mindset of like giving back to the community, helping, and also maybe the discipline mindset of, having to articulate yourself, and also, being a valued member of the society, which is so important. Where did you incorporate that? Would you say, like, is there any key people in your life that you look up to, or is there certain events that like really taught you something that valuable? You touched on a few, but if you can maybe touch on this as well.
Yeah, sure. When I was about 6-7 years old, I always wanted to change the world. I have this thought. I'm not really sure where it came from, like in terms of like being such a young age, and I haven't seen that much of the world, but I had this thought that I can change it, and I thought I can, I think I can, but it may be in my own ways, right? And whatever needle I can push forward. But certainly, like at that time, I thought, oh, this is something I can help the world to be a better place, better than it was. right, after I leave. So that idea has stayed with me for a very long time, and even within the work that I do, whether I was teaching piano when I was a teenager, and I also went to music school. So during my program, I was educating, and that's hence the school that I run. It came from that as well. So every student I taught, I always ask them one thing, like, please love the piano. If you can love it, then you'll practice it, and that would be part of your life. Don't do it for the grades, don't do it for like credits or just prestige, whatnot. It's just like learn the instrument, love it, and be part of who you are. Incorporate art into your life, and then you will be living more colorfully. And so I use like my philosophy, and even with real estate, I want people to build a portfolio. And I used to teach at the school board as well, real estate investing, and I also want them to have more power, to gain their power back and become more independent, financially, emotionally independent. So in terms of the people that have inspired me to become more, like I would say, positive forward thinking, I say that I did read a lot of books when I was young, still do, but back then I was reading Tony Robbins. I was reading a biography of like Oprah. I also like the Dalai Lama. I read the books on Stephen Covey. I met all of them actually. So after growing up, I went to travel and really searching for answers. I was always wondering, what is the purpose of life? Why am I here? Who am I? What can I do? What should I be focusing on? What can I make my life better? And how can I help others alongside of me reaching for my goal? Can I also impact others at the same time? And where can I see my value? How can I help and make other people that come after me, like the next generation, to be a better person? And by modeling and by being an example, I think that's probably the best that one can do. Like, I think that's, generally like teaching is one thing, but also living it is another thing. I find that most of the time when people are inspired, or usually when other people are doing what they wanted to do, in some ways, right? They can see themselves at some point being, having the attitude or the mindset or the success that the one person has. So I have always been like reading on successful people's biography and be able to incorporate and say, how did they do it? What process they went through, or what kind of mindset or what kind of steps they took to get to where they are now. And which is kind of like, this is great. Like the podcast is really sharing information, and so that we all learn from each other. But I find that like once you kind of gone through the process, it's more simple than it looks. I remember like thinking, oh wow, this is like such a stretch, right? From some people's success to where I was. And then as I kind of gotten older and I've done a few more things, then I look back and say, oh wow, the success formula is actually a lot more simple than I thought. And it kind of boils into a few anyways. So that's what I'm trying to teach my son, right? Trying to pass it on to the next generation. Yeah. So I would say those are the people that I've learned from. Like I met Richard Branson. There's a lot of teachers. I find that teachers are around us if we start looking. Doesn't have to be someone that is on the news or someone, we all know. It could be someone simple as a friend or a parent or a teacher at your elementary school. It could be people you just kind of bump into and you learn a few things from, and having perspective. And it gives you a lot of tools to put into your arsenal, and then one day it'll become useful. Like I think just like exactly what you're doing is like picking the brains of many, many different people, and then you'll find that they're very kind of similar in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm. What challenges you?
Well, I mean, there's daily challenges because there's business operation and there's like even the concert is a big undertaking and a big endeavor, because it's not an easy something that people wake up and say, let's do that, right? It's certainly takes time and effort and energy. I think that the challenges that I have would be to keep myself positive, even among many things that are going on, because you have things that you can control and your things that you can't, right? And there's so many can't, which is mostly everything else but yourself, right? Like you can control your own mind and where you focus your energy on, because what you focus on is what grows. So if you focus on the positive, then that will be much more in your daily life and otherwise, right? So certainly I say challenging is to stay on track and be motivated to keep going regardless of what the circumstances are. And most of the times things don't work out. This is just the truth, right? You just might as well get it over with, right? Like things will 99% will work out. And are you okay with that, right? Now, how do you mitigate the risk, or how do you deal with those things that don't work out is the difference between one person versus another, right? Some people may say, well, this is too much, and I'm gone, right? But there's another person who would say, well, I see what it is. I don't see it worse than what it is. I don't see it better than what it is. I just see what it is. And now let's deal with that and how I can grow bigger than that and deal with it so it becomes less than of an issue. And every problem can be solved if you focus on the solution. And if you have to focus anyway, and you only think one thought at a time, right? Your brain cannot wire to have two thoughts at the same time. That's just it's not possible. You can only think one. So you choose, right? What thought to put there. And when you're not thinking something that would support you, then you have to learn to be aware and then switch it to a better thought. So I think like in terms of challenges, like keeping to be more positive and tackling all the other things that are also challenging.
And lastly, what do you think is the meaning of life?
The meaning of life is discovering yourself. Like you have to learn about who you are, and that's a like lifelong venture, right? So that's your purpose. Your purpose is to learn who you are. Like, who are you? Who's Sadra? Like, what are you made of? Like, are you just the physical self? Who are you? Like, it's not obviously not the physical, because there's a lot more to you than that, right? It's about you discovering, and for myself, right? Everybody has their own way of finding out who you are and what you are capable of, right? We all have a time on earth. We have however long. What do you do with that time? How are you making yourself useful? And are you a tool? Are you a problem, or are you a solution, right? You decide, you determine what you want to, do and put to society. If you're a solution, then you think of ways to improve. You find ways to learn how to become better, how to be impactful, how to make yourself a good citizen to society and add value. And I think the journey is everlasting, and that is your purpose. Yeah, you're finding the purpose of life is finding your purpose, and I don't think that it's like one answer, because your purpose at that moment can be that purpose. Like for example, if you are a father, then your purpose is a father, right? But you're not even though you're a father forever, but you're not having to look after your child forever, right? So it's like at that moment of time, if you do what's right, that's your purpose. And you just have to believe that is the best decision that you made at that time. And then you continue to do that. Like meaning, and the next day, think about, well, what are you going to do with that day? And not thinking about the rest of your life. Think about what you can do now for that moment and seize that and make it the best that you can, that you know how. That's your purpose. And it could be anything that really inspires you. Yeah, I think a lot of people think about finding the answer, but the answer isn't an answer. It's really a question, right? It's a question that you ask yourself on a daily level, and then using that answer for that day, and then be that.
Wendy, it was amazing speaking to you.
Thank you, Sajra.
And I wish you all the best in your future endeavors.
Thank you. Appreciate this interview.
Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time. Thanks for sticking with us till the end. If you've enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future insights. Check out the videos on the screen right now for more thought-provoking discussions. Your support means the world to us.